Hi everyone, I just wanted to get this quick video out before the end of the year and just get my thoughts on video about the second finale of Neighbours.
It's time to say goodbye. Thursday on 10.
Overall, I thought it was slightly better than the Channel 5 one. Although there's some similar flaws, at the time I felt the Channel 5 one was kind of cobbled together. Some of the storylines were sort of rushed and in some cases not actually finished, whereas this one had a bit more of a although it did sort of all end in the last week, there were sort of elements that were planned obviously weeks and months ahead. The only thing where it didn't really work was the Irene Rising. Like, we knew they'd finished filming with the residents, so they just disappeared off the face of the earth. Not really sure why they couldn't have been in there a little bit more to maybe tie up some of theirs, or maybe have some kind of storyline to tie up the Irene Rising. Like, maybe there was a resident who wasn't sure about staying, and then in the end they decided to stay. I suppose there was a little bit of that with the love triangle, but I don't know. I think possibly they were setting up potentially having a lot more old faces turn up, because the line to Susan and Susan's Carl was saying about, look at all these old faces that are going to be there, or who he's contacted. So I think they were sort of setting up having more of the old cast appear. But in some ways I quite like the fact that they didn't, because Channel 5's ending was kind of like a goodbye to the whole of the era from 1985. So we had lots of guest stars, and then the episodes coming up to the finale, loads of different people were mentioned. I mean, Bronwyn was mentioned not once but twice. She's not been mentioned for decades previously, but she gets mentioned twice, for example. So I think the fact that Amazon ending really was just an end of their era, and some sort of the end of the Channel 5 era. Obviously there was a couple of other names that popped up, like Annalise, etc., and Sam, or Sam Kratz, as they kept referring to him as if no one knew who Sam was. I'm not really sure why his surname was so important. But anyway, I suppose it did what it was supposed to. Maybe it's because he's got white hair now. And anyway, the Amazon ending was a nod to their era. I think that was quite nice. I'm not entirely sure about the dance mix of the Neighbours theme tune, but although it did end on a cliffhanger, I felt it was done in quite a clever way, in the sense that if it comes back, depending on how long it's been, they could pick up various plot lines. So if it's picked up incredibly quickly, which we can hope, Krista and Leo's baby, she could be pregnant, and that can be part of it. If it's years down the line, we can either have Ramsey Hills or Robinson Tower. And if they can't get the streets, then there's a built-in reason to not actually have Ramsey Street. I mean, I really hope that doesn't happen, because I don't. As was constantly said in the last episode, if there's no Ramsey Street, there's not really any show. But there's a in-universe reason for there not to be Ramsey Street if they can't get the street. But I like the ending. I like the ending where it was just the longest-serving cast members in the street, and we get a beautiful, I was going to say crane shot, but it'll be a drone shot, won't it? And although it was a cliffhanger, it was really hopeful. As to the future, I know the producers have discussed spin-offs and prequels and all that. Personally, I don't really think a prequel would be of much interest to me. I mean, I'd watch it, and potentially, make a video. But I don't know. In fact, in some ways that doesn't really work for me, because some of the older characters, we've sort of known them for decades. So a prequel about them would be slightly redundant. I'm not really sure what you know, it's kind of like the Star Wars, the young Han Solo. Han Solo was actually quite young in A New Hope, so you know we'd already seen young Han. I'm really hoping that Amazon do reconsider. The Australian government have put something in place in the law that means that they will have to be spending a little bit more on Australian content. So, you know, it will make sense for Amazon to spend a bit of money on, you know, maybe a Neighbours, you know, limited series or, you know, reunion movie. Sort of, that sounds grand. But I could sort of see possibly, you know, as having a Neighbours special every couple of years down the road, maybe. But I don't really see that working, as they can't really introduce any new characters, I don't think, that way. So I'm not entirely sure. You know, potentially, I mean, I think getting back to the Neighbours finale, I think they did set up a few things which they were hoping to possibly carry through. I think Jane meeting Mike's ex-wife kind of like hinted towards if they could get Guy Pearce back for a bit more, maybe they could reunite Jane with Mike again. But, you know, maybe in a reunion special they could potentially have that happen. You know, doesn't necessarily mean either of them need to come back for a you know, future shows, but you know, that could be a story that could be told with relatively few characters, and in fact wouldn't even necessarily need Ramsay Street. So I could see that kind of working, but I don't see those shows bringing in any new viewers, so I don't necessarily see it as you know, eventually leading to a new long running show. Another option potentially, I think, is maybe a, you know, sort of every now and then they put together a month's worth of episodes, maybe. So, you know, sort of it's kind of an extended limited series, maybe. Potentially that could work, and then, you know, you could have 3 or 4 different plot lines running that get resolved at the end, and you know, we pick up with the street or wherever a few years down the line. Can Neighbours return? Absolutely it can. I just think the longer it's off the air, the more difficult it's going to be to secure locations, etc, etc. The Australian government have said that streamers are going to have to spend more money on Australian content. So Netflix and Amazon are probably the 2 biggest. So could Netflix decide to pick it up? So let's not give up hope. Let's keep that hashtag, save Neighbours, bring back Neighbours, fight the freeway. Let's keep those hashtags running, because you never know who's watching. So it's been over a week with no new Neighbours. How am I feeling? Well, I kind of miss tweeting Jeff Bezos every day. It's been a bit of a wrench. I mean, spin-off ideas. Mrs. Mangle, the teenage years. Is that enough for a video that I can edit? I guess I'm going to find out.